So, welcome back to Chris Yates podcast. Today we have an amazing person who's been doing amazing stuff. I've been interacting with her off and on for a couple years now. She looks after law enforcement. Sheepdog. Her handle is Intuitive Sheepdog. You might know her, you might follow her, especially if you're a first responder. She is all about looking after our first responders, both emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So, yeah, she used to be a police officer, still is in the police officer field. Her husband now is a state trooper in Maine, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But she is Autumn Schmidt. I think I pronounced that right.
Yep.
Close.
You did good. You did good.
Okay. So, but instead of me telling her whole story and that, I always find that it's better to come from the person that the story is about. So, Autumn, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Let us know who you are and a bit of your backstory and what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Chris. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be your second podcast episode person that you interview. So I'm the founder of what's called the Intuitive Sheepdog, and so what that is exactly what you said. So I look after sheepdogs on the spiritual and emotional wellness area. I've been a police officer since I've been 20 years old. When I was 27, I got injured in the line of duty, and I was told I'll never be able to work full-time duty again. That was devastating, and I'm back in it part-time, but that's really just to maintain my credentials. I'm not out there working like the road or anything. I'm doing a lot of community policing, social media, and stuff like that. Definitely has a place. It's just not the same as out doing patrol, and any patrol cop will tell you that. And so essentially what happened is, I went and got injured and fell into a really deep depression. I know you're familiar with that, Chris, and you face your own demons, right? And, when you go and you're in this place, you just feel so alone, and you don't really know how to get out. And the thing about law enforcement and first responders is we're all very type A personalities. And so we don't ask for help, number one. We believe it's just us. We believe that we're fucked up. And the thing is like the culture itself isn't exactly supportive. And it's not exactly like, oh, if you're struggling, I want you to know I've gone through the same thing, because that's not how it is. And so I kind of, I figured out that, I pulled myself out of it. I went down this really deep, dark hole, so depressed that I was not getting out of bed. Like my husband I just like can visualize my husband sitting at the end of my bed and being like, honey, okay, you need to get out of bed now. And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, okay, well, you haven't got up in like 3 days. Like, it's time to get the fuck up. And I'm like, no, like, I'm nothing. I'm not a cop. I'm nothing anymore. Like, who am I? Because
Your
at the time.
Your identity was stripped.
Exactly. No, so true. And like, cause at the time, like I was almost done my master's in criminal justice. Right. So like all the schooling, all I've ever done, all I've ever known was be a cop. And then I get fucking told one day, literally, it's just kind of happened overnight. Like, yeah, you're done. Like, because you might not ever be able to walk again, depending on, if you re-injure your back. And I'm like, fuck, shit. And like, who am I? And so I went through this whole like deep depression, and then I got myself out of it. And how I got myself out of it is I leaned very heavily on spiritual principles. Thankfully for me, I met Tony Robbins in my police car about a year prior. I know you're a big Tony fan.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. So thank God. Well, not like literally, like I met him in my YouTube, but he helped me. And, but I had to pull myself out of that. Right. And so then now I'm like, that's what's missing. That's what's missing in the culture. That's what's missing for all police officers. And so I'm like you, and we're doing a thing that is quite different, and it is so needed. And I know, just like what you're doing, like I'm saving lives.
Yep.
And that means more to me than anything in the world. And it means more to me than having a billion fucking likes on social media. Like, we're doing something that's different. And that's, that's what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah, doing something that's bigger than us. Yeah, I mean, as you know, I talk a lot about my why and stuff like that. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But what would you, Autumn, what would you classify, like, what would you define for you?
Yeah.
What would you define burnout as? Like, how do you identify burnout?
Mm. Well, so with me, I always go with a picture in my head. And what I talk about, what I say a lot of is, when you see a hamster on a
Mhm.
wheel and it's not really going anywhere, but it thinks it's going someplace. To me, that's what burnout is.
I like
Um,
that image.
you're just fucking spinning your wheels, man, and you're not going anywhere, and you don't have direction, and and you're trying with everything you have, right? Like, you're running and you're like, let's go, let's go, let's go. Like, I want to do this thing. And like, whatever it is, like a lot of times for patrol, right? It's like, I want to be the best officer. I want to be the best cop. Like, I just want to do it. I want to do it. And so you're spinning your wheels, but you're not getting anywhere.
Mm,
You're not getting anywhere for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of it, and my whole basis to what I do is, I don't want officers to lose themselves. I believe that when you lose who you are and you lose deep down inside, you lose that connection, that's when you go on a slippery slope. And here's what's scary. Here's what's fucking really scary. They teach you to lose yourself in the police academies. They're teaching you across the world
mm,
as a police officer, no longer be that human. We need you to be this robot. And that's good for patrol, right? Like, I can tell you in the US, our statistics have completely switched though. So the statistics, like, we were having a ton of officers get killed in the line of duty 5 years ago. Now they're taking their own fucking lives. So now we're losing more officers to suicide than in the line of duty. So what does that tell us? Well, you're teaching us how to be a damn good cop, but you're not teaching us how to equally remain a damn good human.
to
And
to shift it, almost shift that identity when you get on duty. Okay, cool.
mm-hmm.
When you get off duty, okay, now I'm a human again, and I'm,
Yeah.
yes, I'm conscious of what's going on around me, but I'm not wearing my uniform. I am not
Right.
that person right now. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, I can. Yeah, I mean, every single person, as you know, I train people to get into the police is another thing. And every single person that I know that goes into police college within a week of being in college / academy has changed their name on Facebook, has
Mm-hmm.
blocked the thing down. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, you do. But it's it's literally, like you said, changing your identity. So that's actually,
Totally.
yeah, I can.
But you lose yourself and you go down the slippery slope. When you're very aware, when you have self-awareness, right? And you know who you are and you know what you stand for, it's a lot harder to get fucked with. Okay. But when you are wobbly on that and you lose that and you're like, shit, like, what do I believe in? The thing is, and here's what I think, is I think that we all need to believe in something bigger than ourselves, all of us. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm not saying you need to go believe in God. I'm not saying you need to believe in the universe. I'm not saying you need to believe in Buddha. I'm just saying you need to believe in something bigger than yourself, because that gives you faith. It gives you faith. And especially as a first responder, you need faith to get through the hard shit.
Yep, yep, definitely. So what would you say, what have you learned with your experience of, obviously helping lots of people, but also things that you've actually done, tried and tested? And I know you teach all of these things to
Yeah.
overcome or prevent yourself from getting on that hamster wheel and feeling like you're going nowhere.
Yeah. So again, so I have a process, and the process really starts, we want we want the person to get back to who they are. And so one of the biggest things anybody listening could walk away from and take away from this is, you really need to be aware of your thoughts. What we don't understand is that we literally create our own realities. And here's another thing we don't understand, most of us, is that we think 70 to 90,000 thoughts per day. Guess what? We repeat 60 to 70,000 of those a day, right? And so we have to become aware of what the fuck we're thinking. That's the first thing I have all my officers do. Like, I teach them, they come into my program and like they learn mind control. Mind control is huge, right? So mind control can be meditation, but something that nobody really talks about is thoughts.
Mm.
And the thing about it is, it literally, it just changes your life. And so what I have my officers do is I have them write them all down. They hate me for about a good week. They freaking hate me, but I want to know what you're thinking. So
Yep.
tell me what you're thinking. We have to get in there. And we do a lot of thought work. And you know what, Chris, is the thing is these officers, as soon as they start flipping these thoughts in as little as a day, 2 days, a week, they're having fucking crazy manifestations. Their lives are changing. I have officers literally manifesting money. I mean, I have 3 clients off the top of my head right now that have just messaged me in like 2 days and been like, yeah, I really wanted more money. And yep, it's coming because I have this overtime. I got this. And like officers, it's so funny because people think that unless you're like an entrepreneur, like you can't just like manifest money out of nowhere, but it's not true. It's just what do you believe? If that's what you believe, then it's true for you. And so I've been teaching them to mess with their thoughts. And I'm like, they're like, oh my God, like I wanted the extra 1,000 and holy shit, I got it within a week. I'm like,
it's interesting you say that, Autumn. Like here in New Zealand, we can't do overtime, so we can't actually make that extra. But you can do the same exact thing here. You know, you can cash in your toil, which is time off in lieu. But you think about, I love that you get them to think about their thoughts because I get them to shift their focus, which is the same exact thing, just different wording. And it's interesting because if you, like you said, you get them to write down their thoughts and manifesting money. How many cops have you talked to that get pissed off that they have to do overtime, that bitch about it? They're like, oh, I've got to do all this. But then as soon as you get them to shift that focus to, I need more income, now they're no longer,
they're not mad.
They're not mad. They're not draining their tanks. They're like filling it back up.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's amazing to see, when you just that one thing can shift whole life.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. Like just to give you an idea, like I'm going to give you an example, right? So you're in the same thing as I am. We're in the coaching industry, right? And so I had an officer, she signed up with me, and my coaching isn't cheap. My one-on-one coaching definitely isn't cheap. And she's like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sign up for 1 month, right? Because I know that I need you, but after that, like I can't guarantee this because it's a fuck ton of money. Like, yeah, no problem. But you're going to make the money. So don't worry about it. And she's like, okay. Within 2 weeks, she's like, Autumn, I just made an extra $2,000. And I didn't expect it. I'm like, yeah. She's like, holy shit, I can keep coaching you. I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that simple. It's just so simple.
And, for those that are like, oh, but I'm not about money in that. It's not just the money thing. It's the fact that client of yours there will have shifted her outlook on work, her outlook on life. And it's not, we talk about money because everybody is concerned about money, especially in law enforcement, first responders. It's a thing that everybody complains about. I don't earn enough. I can't live. Especially here in Auckland, everybody's like, oh, I don't make enough. I can't buy a house or this and that because of, all these things. But as soon as you shift that focus and shift how you're looking at things, and I always call it shifting a negative into a positive, because you can always find a positive out of every situation. And like you said, it's like you're saying, it's just shifting how you look at things. And it's amazing to see how it's done, and hearing it from somebody else doing it in a different way, the same thing in a different way. How awesome it is to hear that. So that's one way that you can lift your tank up, is fill your tank, as I call it, back up. I don't know what you call it, Autumn, but you can just by shifting those thoughts around things and manifesting and looking at something just in a different light, almost, tell me if you agree with this, Autumn, almost taking yourself out of your body and just looking at it from a different perspective, thinking that you're just somebody else looking at it in a different way.
Yeah, absolutely. We call it being a witness of our thoughts. That's what I tell my clients. Just be the witness. And the cool thing about cops is like we're pretty easily the witness. Like the thing about first responders is like we actually can detach from our emotions pretty easily when we focus there. When we're like, oh, I can be objective. Fuck, I'm objective all the time. Like let me just get objective for a minute. It's just bringing awareness to it.
If you actually think about it, we're some of the best people to actually use our focus. It's just
absolutely
a lot of times it gets used, like you said in the very beginning of us talking here, it gets used to be a great cop, not have a great life. Because you're trained on it, and you do need to do it when you're on duty. You got to be focused. You're running on adrenaline. You're focused on what you're doing because you are a threat. People don't like you. We've talked in the past about it. People don't like you 95% of the time, right? Even if they call you. But it's then it's then even then shifting that focus on, okay, I'm here for that bigger purpose, like we talked about. I'm here for that bigger reason. And why am I actually here? What am I actually doing here? Even though this person has called us and now does not want me here. What am I actually doing here? So this kind of leads me into my next question for you is, what is it that drives you to keep doing what you're doing through all the easy and the hard times? Because I know we all have easy and hard times, especially, running our own business. But even if you think back to, when we were first responders, in other words, like I simplify it down. What's your why?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing is I have to say, I'm doing what I do now is tremendous. Like it's just the most fulfilling thing I've ever done in my life. It far fulfills even being a patrol officer. Okay, because patrol was not super fulfilling for me at all. Um, so this is like super fulfilling. Now it is probably by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I'm literally, and I know you can relate to this, I'm literally pioneering my own fucking voyage here because there's just not a lot of talk about it. Or there's talk about like, okay, there's law enforcement suicides and we need to save them. But where I'm going, which is definitely even just, it is different than what you're doing, is I'm really coming at it from spirituality, right? So I'm like, here, like, and the reason my why, right, and the reason why I'm coming at it from like that is because Chris, like, I was talking to angels since I've been 1 year old. Okay, my mom, she's a shaman, very very spiritual, and so like being in this realm has always been, what has gotten me through. I mean, I remember being I'll tell you like a little story. So I'm a second degree black belt in karate. Well, when I was testing, when I was young, I mean, I don't know, but I was trying to go for my blue belt. It must have been like 9. And I failed. I failed that fucking test. And like nobody failed because sensei only put you in if you felt like you were ready. Well, I fucking failed. And I was like the only one at the school that had ever failed like that particular test. And it was devastating. And I just remember my mom sitting me down and being like, okay, this is a very pivotal time in your life. And you have 2 options. You're going to either quit and walk away from this, and you're going to regret this, and this is going to shape you. And so essentially what my mom later told me, that was never a choice. She just told me that was a choice because she's like, I'll take that right the fuck off the table because you were always going to go back and get that. But she told me that, and she's like, or, you're gonna put your heart and soul into this. But my mom being my mom, right? And she's like, but when you put your heart and soul into this, you are going to talk to your angels and you're gonna do some, like, she'd do visualization with me. And my karate dojo would do visualization with me. And I really like kind of brought that in, right? So my whole life I was just always like talking to angels, bring your angels, the universe has your back. I went to Sunday school. Okay. So it's not that I don't believe in God, but my God is in the universe, infinite source of love. Like that's who my God is. And so, and so I've always leaned really hard on that. Right. And when I went through my really hard time, Cross, I literally thought my life was over. Like, I just was like, what the fuck, man? Like I was just felt like, being a female in law enforcement's hard. Okay. It just is. I don't care what anybody says. It's fucking hard. And like, I just kept feeling like, I'm like, geez, I'm getting dealt this raw hand and another bad hand. And then like, because I had supervisors that didn't like me because I don't know if you can probably tell through this conversation, but like, if you get to know me for just 5 minutes, I'm very type A, I'm in your face and I have an opinion. And,
Like most cops. Like most
yeah,
cops.
totally. I literally fit right in with a cops, but because I'm a female, I'm a bitch, right? She's fucking she's out of control, whatever. Even though my ideas were way better than my supervisor's ideas, whatever, but people didn't like that, right? So I dealt with a lot of that. I dealt with a lot of sexism. I got picked on awful when I was a cop, like just way beyond the ball busting. Like I could take a ball busting just like any of the guys, but like they would take it to this next level. It was sexual harassment, and I could have had their asses on many different occasions, but I didn't. I don't want that. I just didn't want to be spoken to the way I was spoken to, right? But anyway, so I'm just saying, like, I hit this really low, and the only way I could get myself out of it was to stop going out here and reaching out here and reaching out here. I had to turn and I had to look. Yes, exactly. I had to.
Had to look
And I know
inside.
you did the same thing, but you did it differently than me, but you did the exact same thing.
Oh,
Right?
exactly the same thing. I went off and I
Right.
did a motorcycle ride and refound myself by looking at myself and listening to my own thoughts in a helmet.
And and that's the thing. So this is just a huge thing that I just want to reiterate and just talk about is we make ourselves so busy. you know, especially in a patrol car. I can tell you about how Americans police. In a patrol car, we listen to the radio, we listen to the music, we listen to the news, we listen to anything that keeps our mind fucking busy and occupied. Do you know how many times I'd patrol with no motherfucking music? There would be no radio going because it was 2 a.m. and I would sit around and listen to my thoughts. And at the time, I thought that that was killing me because I had a lot of fucking bad thoughts, man. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to be doing this right now. Like, I don't want to be at 2 a.m. midnight. I'm like, I'm better than this. And I would break down. But the thing is, Chris, is like that is where my resiliency came from. And I knew that if I could fucking deal with my own shit, I could deal with what anybody else gave me. Right. And so for me, that's really that's my whys. I know that turning into me and leaning on me saved my life. And I know that it will save anybody's. And not only did it save my life, look at what I'm doing now. I'm actually having an impact. I've had multiple officers tell me, Autumn, because of you, I'm still here. You have taken the gun out of my mouth. Okay. I mean, this is word for word what officers have told me. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, as a police officer, I could not, I just, that I would not have had that impact on the people that I actually give a fuck about. I mean, I really care about cops. That's who I care about.
Yeah.
And that's just, you know, it's not that I don't care about society. I do, but like, I care more about cops.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you identify ones, then your identity is still there. And no, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So yeah. Uh, yeah, that's some really good advice as well for everybody that's listening. Doesn't matter if you're a first responder, doesn't matter if you're an executive, doesn't matter if, you know, you work at the grocery store doing checkout. It doesn't matter if you're, you know, flip burgers at Burger King or McDonald's.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You know, we all go through the same exact stuff. It's just, you know, we lose our identity and we stop looking at ourselves. And, you know, it's interesting you say that. Literally just the other day, I did that. Like I was feeling the burn again. And I was like, okay, you know, with everything that's going on, and my wife's in the travel and, you know, event industry. She's an event manager, so her industry is the first one to get hit. She lost 3 of 4 clients within a few days. So we're sitting there going, oh my God, you know. And then with what we're doing, we know that, yeah, it can get affected. And that, even though it should be the last thing to go do is, you know, stop taking care of yourself. So I was like, okay, I need to go. And I went and did a motorcycle ride, you know, get away from everything. You can't be distracted. And then I went out to a waterfall where there's literally no service. And I literally laid there for about 20 minutes, eyes closed in the sun, just listening to the waterfall, just letting
Yeah,
my
good for
thoughts
you.
go through my head and calming them down.
Good
Because
for you.
as you said, you got to look inside sometimes, you know,
Gotta.
more times than not.
That's what the answers are, you know. That's what the answers are, Chris. And like a lot of my clients, right? And my clients are cops and dispatchers, some, you know, correctional officers. I've got a couple therapists, but you know, sheepdogs, first responders. You know, one of the things as and the thing that I value a lot about what I do, okay, kind of toot my own horn. I don't do it a lot, but I will tell you from my experience, what I value about what I do the most is I'm not giving you the answers because I don't know your answers. I have no fucking clue what your answers are. Just nobody ever knew what my answers were. Do you know how many times? I can't tell you how many times I felt like a person on her knees begging somebody to tell me what's the fucking answer. What's the answer? Just tell me the answer. Like I'll do it, but I need the answer. And you know who? I wasn't asking the right person.
Oh, and
You know,
that's the thing is, especially first responders, we're really good at going, tell me what to do.
100%. You hit it.
But yet we'll
Yes.
never actually say that we're asking what to do because
Right.
we know it all. We, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but we never actually look. I mean, everybody has the answers to their own problems,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just in their own head. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you think
Yep.
about kids. You tell them what to do, they won't do it. You ask them what they want to do, and they'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yep.
So I know you've kind of already given us it, but what would you say is, you know, the number one piece of advice you would give to listeners who are either in a dark place
Mm-hmm.
or, yeah, let's start with that one and then we'll go into, you know, people that are wanting to become first responders, what you give them, because you've got two, you know, we've got two
Yeah.
industries there, but
Yeah. Two
also,
different
yeah, two different
spectrums.
things. You're real passionate about the first responders, so let's talk about that because it goes for everybody. But also, first, what would you tell somebody that's actually in that dark place, feels like they're on that hamster wheel?
Yeah. to get off the hamster wheel. And how you get off that hamster wheel is you got to unplug. You got to get the fuck off social media for a minute. You really do. And you've got to listen. Here's the thing. I would love to sit here and be like, okay, just stare at a wall, do some meditation, and you're going to be fine. Right. Because I've had teachers tell me that. I really have. I've had coaches tell me that. And I'm like, all right. And I did it. And I stared at a fucking wall and I'm like, no. And the thing is, that's a meditation modality and I believe in it. But here's what I know, okay, especially from coaching as many officers as I have, is when your mind is on the hamster wheel, it is almost fucking impossible for you to just quiet your mind and try to meditate and get anywhere. You're not going to. Your mind's still on that hamster wheel. Here's how, in my opinion, how I have been able to stop that. Okay, as I listen and I binge good stuff. I put somebody who's inspiring on, whether it's a book, whether it's a podcast, or whether it's a YouTube video, and I listen to it and I let them change my channel. And while I'm doing that, this is key. Okay, I'm not laying down. I'm moving because we have to move. Tony Robbins teaches us that, right? We have to move. It's like our physiology. That's what he says. And I go for a walk. Walks have saved me. They've saved my life. Like I go for a walk. I just need yours has been motorcycle rides. Mine's is I got to go for a walk. And if you can go for the walk in the woods, go down the fucking road, get on the treadmill. It doesn't matter, but you got to move your body because one, it's going to help you with those endorphins that you talk a lot about, Chris.
Yeah.
But two, it's going to help stimulate your mind. It just does. So if you can, so simple, get off the hamster wheel. And it just means put an inspiring audiobook in your fucking ears, listen to a beautiful podcast such as this or mine, and just go for a walk. Because what will happen is you're going to slowly change your mind. It's just you're slowly going to change your mind, and Tony Robbins said something else, and I'm quoting him because I know we both love him, as he always says that, it happens in a second. Just like that. It's exactly what he says. He goes, a change happens in a second. It takes years for it to happen, right? But the decision, the decision to change just happens in a fucking second, and you have to make that decision. And in my opinion, when you're listening to something that's going to change your mind, it just opens your mind instead of listening to reality news, bad news, fucking, drill sergeant shit. Listen to something that's inspiring, and it's gonna open your mind, right? And it's gonna help you to improve and get you closer to making that decision to change.
Awesome. Yeah, no, definitely. There's a few things. Yeah, Tony always talks about that. There's a second to change, and then it's to taking the action from it.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll come to you, and then it's take instant action around it. And when you're on a walk, you can take that instant action and create a plan because you're out there. There's nothing else going on besides what you're listening to.
And that's the thing. And this is one thing I just want to say. I'm sorry, Chris, but like you got me on a roll and you know how I go. So the thing is that like a lot of people like to do this. Cops are notorious for this. We're going to pull car to car and we're going to talk a bunch of shit. I'm going to tell you fucking how my day fucking sucks.
Yeah, all my problems. I'm going to tell you all my problems.
Yes,
I'm not going to come up with any solutions.
I remember being on fucking FTO and all these senior officers would just dump on me. Like I had like, and I'm like, whoa, like I don't have time for this. I'm not your motherfucking therapist. Like I don't even know my head from my ass. I'm trying to figure it out. And you're just, you're telling me your life story. And man, like, I'm sorry. Like I remember I had one FTO who almost fucking, he went into the lieutenant's office trying to fail me. Because all he would do is tell me his fucking stories and I felt bad and I couldn't think, right? So here's the thing. When you go for your walks, when you do your thing, don't get on the fucking phone. You don't need to tell anybody your fucking problems. I'm fucking telling you. Can I tell you that I've completely shut my life off from a lot of people in my life? I really don't. I really have shut that off. I do, to this day, I do not vent. Venting, there's no fucking venting. I don't want to fucking vent. Okay, if I vent, it's very short, sweet, and I'm coming up with a solution right after it. That's me. When I vent, I go vent to the God. I go vent to the universe. I'll get in the shower and be like, God, I'm fucking telling you, I'm stressed out and you need to help me. Like that's my venting, because here's the truth, you guys, is nobody has your truth. Nobody can give you the answers. You're going to come up with them. That's it. Nobody ever doing what I'm doing. Everybody told me I could never do it. And everybody told me I'd fail. Every fucking person in my life was like, you're going to teach cops spirituality and you think that they're going to hire you as a coach? Okay, Autumn. And I'm motherfucking doing it.
Yeah.
And the thing is I'm doing it because you want to know why? I unplugged. I don't answer my phone. My best friend, she calls me. I love her to pieces, but she gets very minimal time now. Like I don't have time to be on the phone listening to your shit. You know, my family, I don't call them anymore. When we have get-togethers, that's great, but I can't let that in my head. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I think that's honestly like so important for people. And I just want everyone everywhere to hear that is like, stop fucking dumping on people. You think it's going to make you feel better to vent, but it's not, because 9 times out of 10, you only feel better if they agree with you. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And what's happening when you agree with them? You're just dumping on them. So if you really give a fuck about somebody, don't vent. Don't vent. There's no venting. Go vent to the
And
universe.
me personally, so I think there's a difference between venting in a negative way and just being authentic.
Yeah, 100%.
So like, and I know this is where you're coming from, and I just wanted to clarify it for anybody, because in my head I'm going, oh yeah, and those are just stories and shit in my head. But I just wanted, just in case there's anybody out there that had similar stuff popping up. When you're venting, you're not telling people all your problems and going, I'm just sticking here. You're telling
Right.
people, okay, I've got this going on, but I'm getting through it. You're
Does
saying
it,
you're in a positive aspect, and you're solution based, and you're just telling them what's going on so you
yes.
can get it out of yourself. But
Yes.
you're also going, do you actually have, is there any solutions? Like, I know when I did my motorcycle trip, people would be like, oh, what are you up to? And I'd be like, I went through burnout. I was fucking destroyed. I was PTSD, depression, all that kind of stuff. And I'm here making a difference so that I can get through it. And
Oh,
there's a
absolutely.
difference between going, I've got depression, I've got PTSD, and I'm burned out.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
complete difference to going, okay, and this is what I'm doing about
Exactly. And you said something very important there is solution based. There's
it.
a difference between like bitching and there's a difference between processing, right?
Mhm.
Like you can process, like there's something, pretty significant going on in my life right now. And I'm like, I like looked at my husband and I'm like, I just need to talk about this for 5 minutes. Like, this is what's going on. I know that it's a good thing. Like, I'm just processing by talking to you. You don't even need to do anything. I just need to get it off my chest. But I'm not like, I have a problem. You need to listen to me and you need to agree with me and you need to figure out a solution for me. There's a very big difference, and honestly, and the question becomes, Autumn, how do I figure out the difference? It's all in how you feel. What's the vibe? If
Yeah.
the vibe is shitty and you feel shitty talking about it, then shut up and you'll figure it out. Like, that's what journaling is for. I'll tell you, I have all my sheepdogs journal, all of them. They
Mhm.
sign up for my program, they buy my coaching, and they buy themselves a journal and they use it because that's a fucking fantastic way for you to get your thoughts out, for you to process. You get answers. You get answers.
Mhm. I remember because I journal as well, not as often as I. There's always the you should journal this and that. That I know you don't say exactly when you should journal, but I feel I should probably journal more. But
Mm-hmm.
when I do journal, I just literally write down everything that's fucking going through my head. And a lot of people, I
Perfect.
remember when I was a kid, I used to think journaling was talking about your day and what happened.
Yeah.
And so, but it's not. It's actually just getting all those thoughts out so that those solutions can come. And I remember one time it was like, why do I keep self-sabotaging? And literally I just kept writing, kept
Mm.
writing. And then I got to a stage, my mom gave me some really good advice. She was like, Chris, when you think you're done, write another page or two.
Ooh, that's good.
Because she's like, when you think you're done, that's when you're just about to get to the nitty gritty. And so
I
literally
like
I
it.
did that and I was
I
like,
like
okay,
it.
yeah, I've got it all out. And I'm like, no, she said, when I think I'm done, write 2 more pages. Okay. And I just literally kept writing and it came all
I
the way
like it.
out that I self-sabotage because I feel like I'm giving up on myself because of an incident of when I was yacht racing at 16 on a boat with just all of us kids. And I made one decision. I blame myself. And I kept self-sabotaging since then. It was like, now that I know it, and I know an incident that caused it, or I believe caused it. Now I can go, oh, that's just that thing coming up again. Anytime that I feel like
Mm.
it's coming up. Autumn, real quick, because obviously, you're busy, I'm busy. We've got, we want to not have people, having to listen for 3 hours, even though we can talk for 3 hours. We've done it before. Um, what would you say for people that are wanting to get into first responding or wanting to get into, wanting to prevent themselves from even getting into that stage of
The
getting off the
burnout.
hamster wheel?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd just go back to like what I said about, not losing yourself. I think like what you do with the physical fitness is so huge. And physical fitness just really freaking helps that. Because the reason why it helps, in my opinion, okay, in my experience, is because it helps you to like set goals and have something to like work towards, so that you're kind of out of your own way. You're, again, you're working and doing something bigger than yourself. But it's really about not losing yourself to this job. It is so easy for us to do that. And I know you get in and you're just like, I want to be the best cop, and I want you to be the best cop. I really do. But I also want you to be the best version of you. Because listen, the job, they're hiring you based on who you are. That's what everybody fucking forgets here, is that it's like, wait a minute, you sat down in an oral board and they fucking got to know you. They read that resume. They hired you. Like, they hired Autumn, right? They didn't fucking hire Officer Autumn. Like, they can help me become Officer Autumn. They can help that alter ego, but like, they also really like Autumn as, who I am and what they see, my interests are. Because as a police officer, first responder, like, they ask us what our hobbies are, and they do the background check, and they get to know who you really are. So don't lose that. And why it's so important. And I can say, like, a lot of spouses, they love listening to this, and they agree so much, is because when our spouses go and become police officers and first responders, we see how they come. It's like, wait a minute, I didn't marry you. What the fuck is this person? Who the fuck? And my husband and I'll tell you this, my husband and I, we went through the police academy together, and there's some days I'm like, and who are you? Like, who are you? Come back. I need my husband, because I am not married to Trooper. I'm married to fucking my husband. He needs to come back.
It's awesome. It's awesome, Autumn, that you say that, because I know my wife saw it and I didn't listen to her. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm still me. And like, I can take it all the way back to like the first couple weeks out of college, exploding at some guy that cut me off because I was Officer Chris. I embrace things. When I become them, I embrace them. Like, and it was, and that's one of the reasons that I burned out so much, was because of that same thing. I identified, and I just, I've picked this up just in our talk now. I identified my whole life as I was a cop. I would go, the things I did off duty, I'd go shooting. And, my dad owns a firearms company here in New Zealand, in Borneo Fire. So he was paying for me to go off shooting because he knows how important it was. He did police academy in the States as well. He's like, you have to constantly do it. So on my days off, on my weekends, one day would be off shooting, making sure that I was good. It wasn't actually doing the things that I loved and enjoyed. It was all about the things that went towards work. And so it's disconnecting, man. It's so important. So
there's a balance, like there's a balance to that. There's a balance to shooting because you need to. I think that's great, but it should be counterbalanced as well,
Yeah, exactly. So Autumn, so if anybody's looking for, any first responders that listen, or literally anybody, if they're listening and they want to seek out your services because they're like, oh, I really identify with Autumn, what, how do they get in touch with you? How can they find you?
Come and hang out with me at Intuitive Sheepdog on Instagram. I've got a podcast too. It's called Intuitive Sheepdog. I've got a Facebook group called Intuitive Sheepdog. But wait a minute. I have a website that's not Intuitive Sheepdog. It's actually autumnclifford.com. So, just come hang out. And, I love what you're doing. I love what we're doing. We're building momentum together. And, I'm hoping in 5 years, we'll be looking back and we're going to be like, hey, we're finally doing it. We're finally doing big things. Like, people are actually listening. Holy shit.
It will happen, Autumn.
It totally will. It totally will. It's just time. We're just pioneering, we're just the pioneers of this, and it's fun, right? Because we get to literally write what we're doing, and it's good. So anybody listening that can share this out, we would both greatly appreciate it, because we're just trying to get our messages out that are both of our messages are bigger than both of us.
Yep, that's definitely true. And I'd like to finish on just one piece of advice you have for viewers, your top piece of advice that you have for viewers or listeners.
Oh, geez. I mean, I always have so much that I want everyone to do.
What do you think your top piece of advice is?
Especially right now in this fucking epidemic time that we're all going through. Here's what I can say. I find myself going on this, social media scroll, and I get really down. I get really panic stricken. I get really down. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to, number one, stop that bullshit. And I want you to put good stuff. I want you to focus on good stuff. You're listening to this podcast and you're already ahead of the game, but don't get off this podcast and go and scroll on fucking social media. Go listen to another good podcast, good stuff. Keep feeding your brain with good stuff. It is, keep investing in yourself and making yourself better. And I just think that is honestly the best piece of advice I can give anybody. I mean, fuck, wait, there was a statistic that was like, if you go back and forth to work, right, and you're driving like a half an hour there and a half an hour back, so an hour a day, it's like, if you listen to like a book, if you listen to a book, or if you listen to like really good educational shit, it's like, after a year, that's like the equivalent with the amount of hours is the equivalent of getting your doctors or something like that. Like I heard that one time and I was like, damn. And ever since I heard that, I was like, I listen to music 25% of the time, 75% of the time is something that's feeding my soul,
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
especially, our officers or first responders driving around. You got nothing but do but time. Nothing to fucking listen to. Don't listen. You've had enough of Def Leppard. Okay, shut that shit off and fucking.
And don't worry about taking it all in, because as Tony says, it's net time. It's time. Even if you're listening to it in the background while you're doing something else, on patrol, you're driving around in that. Even if you're driving to work, net time, it's in the background. Subconsciously, you'll still hear it. And subconsciously you get triggered by something. You'll be like, oh, and your conscious will then pick it up.
Yeah.
And so exactly. It is, playing podcasts in the background, I do listen to, I've tried to listen to podcasts and stuff like that while I work out in the gym. I've got to have music. So there are times where you just, yourself.
Absolutely.
I know some people that listen to podcasts and they listen to, audiobooks while they're training. I'm like, how the hell do you do it? But it works for them.
Yeah.
So it's finding those times that you can do it, that, it lifts you up. It's all about
absolutely.
So, awesome, Autumn. Thank you so much for your time. Thanks for, being on, my podcast. And, again, we are here to help. We're here to talk to people that have everybody's gone through burnout. Everybody, whether they know it or not, they've all gone through it. So we're here to talk to people that have actually used real life tools and, figured things out. Whether it's the same thing, learned it from somebody else, but they've figured things out that they know work because they've used them and they've tried them.
Yes.
So we're here to pass that knowledge on to other people so that they can use it to help prevent them from, staying in burnout or even going through it again, or even going through it in the first place. If you're a teenager, I'm sure you've gotten burnout in some stage, whether it be school or sports, whatever. So, it's just all about educating people, giving some people some extra information and some extra knowledge. So again, I want to thank you, Autumn, and Intuitive Sheepdog. Go have a listen. Stuff is amazing. I've listened to it since pretty much the beginning, and learned a lot, and it helps a lot. So again, thank you very much, Autumn.